Welcome back to 5-Minute Life Hacks. I'm your host, Natalia Ambrosia, coming at you from my bedroom in Los Angeles, California. Earlier this week, I was listening to an episode from Almost 30, one of my favorite podcasts, and they were talking about how they weren't really inspired and they didn't really feel like saying anything profound, you know? They were just kind of living day to day, and I found that really interesting and reassuring because that's kind of how we're all feeling. It's okay not to be doing that much and to be feeling that profound. Just living and being present is enough, which I feel has also been the theme of my life. I've got a really interesting episode coming up about what I've been doing to be more present. So stay tuned. In the meantime, this episode is about your inner critic. You know, that voice that often manifests itself as anxiety. Some of us can distinguish it, some of us can't or need to try a little bit harder to distinguish it. And at the end of this episode, I'm going to give you a quick little trick on how to start calming that inner critic and, as a result, have less anxiety. This episode was inspired by my very own inner critic that I didn't actually realize I had because, oftentimes when you think about, you yourself are often your harshest critic is one of those quotes. You think they're talking about an external critic or a critic inside that's talking about your external appearance, like you're ugly or you're fat. And I don't really have that. So I didn't really notice I had an inner critic that was really harsh on myself, that was giving me anxiety until earlier this week. I was talking to my therapist and I was telling her how I get anxiety when I don't work enough or when I'm not working. So it's really hard for me to relax. This is an ongoing theme for me. I feel bad if I haven't been productive enough, even when I've done work, but I just feel like it hasn't been good enough. And then she started mentioning the inner critic. And I said, what? She's like, yes, it's a voice you have that's making you feel guilty and giving you anxiety. And as I thought about it, that day, for example, I'd been working for 6 hours and I'd felt like, even though I hadn't been doing other things like going on Instagram or other websites, I just felt like I'd not been productive enough. And my inner voice or inner critic was saying to me, you haven't done enough work. So that means today, after this call, you have to do more work and you don't get to do anything fun this evening. And as I told her this, I kind of started laughing and I thought, wow, I didn't actually realize that this anxiety had a voice and it's kind of dumb. I'm not 5. Sometimes you're more productive than other days and that's fine. So my therapist had me write down every single time this voice, this inner critic comes out and gives me anxiety, what time it is and what triggered it and what the voice is saying. And so I started doing that. And actually, I've found in like 1 week, it's helped me so much. And another thing is you reread what your inner critic is saying. And so it's like, you're dumb, you're wasting time. Why have you not been doing enough work? You're going to lose out. You're going to get fired. And like you listen to this and you're just almost like a friend to yourself and you're saying, this is ridiculous. You can't think like that. And another trick you could do on top of that, which my friend Beth told me about, my producer, hi Beth, she said a funny thing you can do is like when you're reading it back to yourself, say it in a funny voice so that it gives it kind of a more ridiculous sounding voice, I guess. So you could say, you're so dumb. Why are you doing this? And then you kind of laugh at yourself and you realize like this voice doesn't have any power. And another thing is like, this is a dark part of you, your dark inner critic. And by writing it down, you're shedding a light on it and almost kind of like destroying it by choosing to accept it and listen to it and see what it's saying. You're like almost killing it with kindness, which is great, isn't it? So to sum it up, maybe your inner critic doesn't have a voice. Maybe you think in pictures. Maybe you're not sure if you have an inner critic. But a lot of us do get anxiety, and maybe this is a trick that you can try to calm that anxiety, calm that voice. So what you can do is anytime you get anxiety, you write down the day, the time, what triggered it, and what your thoughts are telling you. Like, this is dumb. You're going to fall down. Why are you doing this? Why are you calling this person? And just kind of keep writing. Write for a few minutes, write for 1 minute, and then kind of read it back to yourself. Use a funny voice. And I guarantee you that if you try this for a week, it's really going to make a difference. It's just getting closer to understanding yourself, right? And that's what makes us happier. The more we understand ourselves and know how to work with ourselves, the happier and more connected we're going to be. So as always, please message me on Instagram at Natalia Ambrosia. I love hearing from you. Let me know if this little trick works for you, if you have any more little tricks. Have an amazing day. You're wonderful. You're beautiful. And don't listen to that inner critic. Bye.